Good evening and welcome to tonight's city council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First thing I'm going to ask for is agenda changes.
Mr. Mayor, we have no changes to present from staff this evening.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'll open up for public forum. Is there anybody here in the audience that wishes to address the council this evening that's not on the agenda? Seeing no movement, I'll go ahead and close the public forum and ask for the approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, having reviewed the consent agenda as submitted and trusting that my colleagues have also reviewed it, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes unanimously. We have one item under unfinished business tonight, and that's a Pathways grant with the Health Harvey Coalition. I believe we have representation here this evening.
Assuming I have to turn this thing on?
It's green, you're
Green
good.
screen? All right, good. Commissioners for the county, we always have to hit the button ourselves. So I am Lori Kessler. I'm with the Harvey County Health Department. I'm the coordinator of the Healthy Harvey Coalition. I know that Ethan brought before y'all a Pathways to a Healthy Community pledge from our Pathways to a Healthy Kansas initiative, which is funded by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas. And I'm coming back to give you a little more information about it. So a little bit more about Pathways itself. This is a grant from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. This is actually, we've held it now. This is our second round of it. We've had this grant since 2017, and the idea is to make changes to make things healthier. Usually when we get grants, they're to, create a piece of paper. This one actually has money set aside for Harvey County to make the changes that we figure out on our pieces of paper. So this one is actually for a multimodal transportation. The title of the package is Multimodal Transportation and Recreational Trails Package. It's a bit confusing on the pledge because they've combined two packages together. Blue Cross and Blue Shield did. They used to have it separated where it was just multimodal transportation and then recreational trails. And then they realized that in some of our counties, there's not a difference between the two. We use our trails to get to and from places. So they combined it, which makes it a little confusing. The reason that I brought this to Ethan with the idea of talking about it here in Halstead, Newton was going to do this package, and then they decided that it wasn't something they could use to leverage more money. It wasn't enough money for them to use to leverage more money. I have an advantage here in Halstead in that we've already got the Safe Routes to School Transportation Alternative Grant, so the money's already leveraged, and this just gives additional money to add to expand, to enhance, to just create more of that phase one that is already funded. So I don't know what other questions you have about it. I can talk more about what the minimum requirements are. I will say that the pledge is not a binding agreement. It's just a, hey, we might be able to make this work, let's figure out how agreement. Obviously, the city of Newton already backed out on it. That's not a problem. So.
I do have a question. I even went to the definitions to find out
Yeah.
multimodal.
That just means something other than cars.
Okay.
So whether it's by foot, by bicycle, by train, by bus, that's just what it means.
Okay.
And this one is focusing specifically on things that will get you places under your own power. So feet, bicycles, that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, I also had, there was minimum package requirements, multimodal transportation or recreational trail infrastructure.
Super confusing, isn't it?
There was a lot of stuff on there, and I'm thinking, we're gonna have to have somebody on staff to make sure we're compliant with this.
Actually, I went through here today, since I was involved in the Safe Routes to School planning here, and I know everything that's already in there. There's only one thing on here that is not already done. Have to say that our technical assistance folks, who are public health lawyers, well, you have to cross this T, and I need that I dotted in this specific manner. But everything is pretty much so done. Already worked with the coalition because we were involved in the Safe Routes to School planning here. So that part is already checked off. Mary Marrow, who's our TA, our lawyer, or I should say she's not my lawyer, she is a public health lawyer that provides assistance. She already knows what all is being done here, already knows about the Transportation Alternatives Grant. Jenny Kramer from the state, who would be the next one, number 3 bullet point that would need to be contacted, already knows about everything that's been going on here. We've already been in contact with her. So the fun one is, and this is where Halstead actually works really, really well, our populations of impact are really looking at here in Harvey County, mostly lower income, people with disabilities, and people who are older. And we've already done the impact assessments with the Housing Authority. We did a health equity project there a couple years back, so we've already got all of that input and data from the Housing Authority. And then the governmental policy part, you've already got that done. That's the Transportation Alternatives Grant. That part is already done. Activates within 2 years. That just means that after you get the money within 2 years, you'll actually start work on implementing whatever it is you're getting the money for. Ensuring the multimodal trail system, which is not a trail system here, it would be a multimodal. Addresses inequities, we've already got that because that is the work we did with the Safe Routes to School and also with the health equity at the Housing Authority.
Inequities, describe the inequities.
Inequities would be people who are having disproportionate outcomes. So if you think of it as it's harder to get insurance if you don't have a job that provides it, or it's harder for you to get to school if both your parents work and you don't have a car and there's no bus system. That's what we mean when we say inequities. It's just having an imbalance of resources. And it's a terminology that we use that really just says that we are working where people actually need assistance, as opposed to working in neighborhoods that already have everything they need.
Well, I've got another one here.
Yep.
For instance, links to transportation, recreation, healthy food, retail outlets, and other community facilities where possible. How does that look if we were to implement that? Do we have to have a link on our city website?
No, that actually is just saying that you've got a sidewalk that connects point A and point B. And that's really what the whole idea of working on 6th Street particularly.
The different type of a link
Yeah,
then, okay.
yeah, it's not like a web link. It's literally a physical. I can walk from the corner of Main and 6th Street to the school safely, or I can walk from the Housing Authority to the grocery store safely. So that's what we're meaning by links there.
Okay.
The policies really, I have a feeling that those are going to be simply looking at and reviewing them, because it's going to be like the Safe Routes to School plan. The technical assistance lawyers walk through all of that in partnership with, in this case, it would be Ethan, walk with him through it to make, and with me, to make sure that everything is in place that needs to be done. It really, the idea is just that you're going to put a sidewalk in and you're going to leave it there for 10 years and upkeep it without, oh, we decided we don't want that one there, we're going to take it out. So that's really what all of the policies are for, is to make sure that you've done your due diligence on that, where you're putting it is where it's needed, and that you're going to maintain it.
In a nutshell, you guys are going to basically help us expand our SRS program.
That's what we're hoping. Yep, that's the plans.
We're gonna be able to move that program ahead faster than originally thought. So I think this is a heck of an opportunity for Halstead to be able to engage in this.
This paper, the flyer from Blue Cross talks about an active transportation and recreation advisory board. Is that something that we as a city have to put
No,
together? Or is
no.
that like a?
And that actually is one of those things that popped up when they mashed multiple packages together. It's on page 1. It says, we pledge to implement at least one of the tracks listed below. And the tracks are the multimodal transportation or recreational trail infrastructure, which is what we're talking about, or active transportation recreation advisory board. Technically, Harvey County already has one. If you really want to make use of it, let me know and I can hook you up with them. It's called Walk and Roll Harvey. So you don't really, that would be superfluous.
Okay, but that part, if I'm hearing you right, that part doesn't
Nope.
pertain to what we're pursuing
Nope,
here.
that has absolutely,
See, that was the thing.
Just a
problem I had.
confusion,
There was
yes.
so much in here, I really was thinking, we're gonna need somebody on staff to implement this.
no, hopefully not. The idea is that it's actually super simple, especially since we've already done all of the work. We had the assistants in from Salina, we've done all the work with Topeka, with DOT and the transportation alternatives, safe routes to school. We've already done all the hard work at this point. I'm hoping, if everything goes the way it should, it's going to be a matter of, like I said, making sure our Ts are crossed, our Is are dotted, and submitting what is actually the easiest grant submission you will ever see, because it honestly is name, contact info, what you've done, and what you need. So
That is an easy grant.
it is, it's like 2 questions and your info. So,
We have a future project that's coming up for another city park here in town that's going to be slated with nature trails. Would this be something we could utilize in that project as well, Ethan?
we have a time limit on this one. This
Okay.
one will be done, it has to be written for by January 31st of 2024.
Oh.
1 year out, sorry, not to panic anyone, 1 year out. So, unless it's to a point where you're ready to implement before that time period, and that actually, same general area, but it's a different package and it's got a different pledge, which luckily is not as confusing, but still.
Okay, well, and it sounds like we've got everything put together to add this to our SRS, so sounds like a great opportunity.
All right. If you have any other questions, Ethan's got my number. I'm at the health department, so.
Well, Lori, thank you for being here and
No problem.
and, letting us know what you guys are doing to help us out here in Halstead.
Hopefully we can keep finding more resources.
We appreciate it.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the Pathways to a Healthy Community Pledge for the city of Halstead and approval for the city manager to execute necessary documentation related to the program and grant funding opportunity.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this grant opportunity with the Harvey Health Coalition. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you again, Lori.
You are welcome. Y'all have a good
Lori.
evening.
All right, thank you.
Good night.
Now let's move on to new business. Item 1 is a public hearing for our active tax abatement annual reviews. I'll open that public hearing now, and Ethan will let us know what we need to do here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We actually had to change this year. As far as tax abatements, Lake Company has transitioned completely through their final 10-year tax abatement. So we just have the one active tax abatement as established by ordinance number 1258 for Martin Machine and Welding for the 2023 year. That is 100%. That originally was given on an expansion to their powder coat line that they started in 2014. Had the analysis there of the information Martin Machine and Welding provided. Unfortunately, they couldn't have a member of staff here with us this evening. But as you can see, last year and the year before with the pandemic, we were really looking at, unfortunately, some decreases in terms of numbers of employment and payroll that I'm happy to report has all rebounded very nicely. Martin Machine is at levels both in terms of their payroll and their employment numbers greater than the initial abatement year. So really good to see that they themselves have rebounded, just as we're seeing in a lot of industry. They continue or expect to see growth as well into the coming year. So we're glad to see that. This would be year 8 of 10 of that active tax abatement. Will note, again, that that tax abatement is specific to an expansion project they did in 2014. So even with that abatement, Martin Machine is in the top 5 taxpayers for the community. So this isn't, saying that Martin Machine pays no taxes whatsoever in the city of Halstead, even though we use the word abatement. And judging from the information and corroboration that they sent to city staff to review, we would recommend continuing Martin Machine's tax abatement for the next year.
Mr. Mayor, if there are no questions or discussion, and having looked through Mr. Martin's attachments here, I would make a motion to approve the continuation of tax abatement and as established by ordinance number 1258 for Martin Machine and Welding for 2023.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to continue the tax abatement for Martin Machine and Welding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. It takes care of that, and there is nobody here to comment from the public, so I'll go ahead and close the public hearing on that matter. Next item on the agenda is Imagine IT internal fiber network upgrade quote. I believe this is, the city will end up owning its fiber runs between buildings, and that's fiber only coming from Idea Tech, and then we had to have a separate contract to put together for the actual equipment to light that fiber up, and Ethan will bring us up to par with what we're doing there.
Yes, it was a great lead in by the mayor. Don't know that I have a lot to add. You have the quote there. Because of how this integrates with our actual network, the easiest solution, we did reach out to some other potential vendors, but we get into interplay of, because that's kind of opening the door, if you will, to direct network access. The cleanest thing for us without having to get a lot of agreements between a lot of different companies is for Imagine, who can provide the equipment as shown on the quote, to put in that fiber and allow us to take advantage of that dark fiber network between our buildings. I know it seems like a lot. I will just note, and had that in your agenda memo as well, the city was scheduled naturally to replace our firewall appliances. So this basically we're buying a better firewall appliance than we normally would have got, and one that can fully utilize the capabilities of a fiber network compared to what we probably would have put in. But some of that cost we would have seen in terms of some equipment just was going to be upgraded naturally anyway. This obviously is over my spending authority, which is why it's in front of all of you. But we would like to get approval to get this started so that we can continue moving forward with that, and get that dark fiber network up and running as soon as possible. Did ask for a little bit of a buffer between the final quote price and the amount for you all to authorize. That's just basically to allow for any variance in the labor estimates are just that, they're estimates. So if it takes longer for some reason, allow us to go ahead and still be able to do this, or if they find there's some missing component. They've been on site twice, so I'm pretty comfortable that just shy of $22,000 is where we're gonna end up, but does give us a little bit of wiggle room in case something comes up unforeseen, as has unfortunately been the case sometimes when we do IT upgrades, so. And I wish I knew more technical specs, but this should fit the bill. Again, it's all expected to have, 5+ year lifespan. Our only other option to light the network would be essentially proposed to be about a $500 a month lease on equipment. So that would cost us $6,000 a year. So roughly we're, by owning the property outright, which has long been a stated policy direction from the council as opposed to leasing equipment whenever possible, we do have, basically a 4-year payback in terms of what we're spending, versus if we just leased, we would be spending more in that same 5-year set. And Idea Tech is more than happy to work with what we have, so if we own it ourselves, great. And then they, one less thing for them to worry about as far as having to ensure network access for us. That's something that Imagine currently takes care of and will continue to take care of. So.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if there's no questions or discussion, I'd make a motion to approve a proposal for internet fiber network quote from Image IT with a project amount not to exceed $25,000 and authorization for the city manager to accept this proposal.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the proposal from Imagine IT for our fiber network hardware. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the seed grant matching funds guarantee. And Ethan will preface us on that.
Thank you. So we continue to work on that application. Looking at, as far as the industrial park speculative building, probably having a grand total somewhere in between 250 and 275. So roughly planning for our match to be in the $100,000 to $120,000 range, which should put us at more than 40% match, not quite 50. One thing we're throwing in there that we can as a match is the money the city already spent to reacquire those lot. So we'll put that as 10,000 of local match, but we've already spent that, but we can claim that as an expense. So as far as our match, so that should help a little bit. It's not quite the 50-50, but I still think it'll make it a strong application for that speculative building. We're currently in the process of getting those letters of support and getting the business and marketing plan put together per the requirements of the seed grant, but that's basically, oh, I'm talking about the base grant. Oh my gosh, wrong agenda. Sorry, seed grant. Man, sorry. So the seed grant. The city of Halstead is the main grant recipient on that. We need to provide proof of matching funds. Looking across the three projects, the matching funds for that seed grant from the Department of Commerce would be $16,253.50. While there are three sub-grant recipients under us, basically because we are the grant recipient as far as the Department of Commerce is concerned, we need to provide that proof of matching funds. I know it sounds really weird that in effect, we're basically guaranteeing the match that like North Newton would have for their project. I do have similar guarantees already in place from those three sub-grant recipients. So I am confident that they'll be able to meet their match and not leave the city of Halstead out there holding the bag, so to speak, in terms of this. Basically, while we're guaranteeing it, in the event someone couldn't move through, I mean, we'll work with Commerce, but I don't think that this is, other than we need to encumber that money to show that we do have matching funds so that everyone can begin to get their grant funding. It's kind of we're serving as a pass-through entity, if you will, for some of these funds. So
Might want to name the entities that are going to benefit from this grant.
City of North Newton, the Halstead Public Library, and the Kansas Learning Center for Health. And that's one of the reasons the city of Halstead took the lead role, if you will, as far as being the primary applicant, is since two of the entities were in Halstead, we thought it would be easier for us to get those funds to the library and learning center than for North Newton to try and do that. And we are currently waiting, and we'll have those memorandums of understanding that will further spell out the guarantees. But, you know, we all applied together, it worked well. I'm not foreseeing any issue. I do realize it's kind of weird to ask you guys to guarantee our funds on that match, but that's what we need to do because we're technically the overall grant recipient. So again, at the end of the day, when this grant is closed out, the city of Halstead will have no financial position change or any of our local money towards a project in North Newton. We're just basically putting those funds on hold to guarantee that a match will be in place. And again, all three entities have provided that guarantee that they already have those funds in place, so. And I apologize, I went on about the base grant.
Okay, so this all makes sense. Thank you. And it's a good thing. So hopefully this comes through and we are successful in receiving this. And with that, I would make a motion to approve matching funds for the city of Halstead seed grant application, the amount of $16,253.50.
Second.
Have the motion and the second for the funds match guarantee on the seed grant. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Now let's talk about the base grant in our spec building in the industrial park.
All right. So, just to reiterate what I said, we're looking overall the project budget with some of the estimates we've had to try and clean up and make the application. Originally, with our first base grant application, we also applied for some signage for the industrial park. I went ahead and took that component out, and we'll just be focusing on the base grant in that application. Looking at a project budget, again, total project budget somewhere between 250 to 275, and then, yeah, our match coming in at somewhere to 100 and 125, which would put us at 40% or more in the match. Other than that, yeah, we have some additional things they definitely want this time, like a business and a marketing plan. We have gone down the rabbit hole, so to speak, on what we would kind of anticipate being able to rent this out on, so shouldn't be too hard to put those together. But yeah, we, I guess, just wanted to keep you all aware of kind of what we're talking in terms of local match. If we're formally awarded, obviously, you would have to do something very similar to what we just did with the seed grant, which is you're gonna have to encumber those funds. I'll get into it with the auditors are here, et cetera, but it's, you know, when we encumber those or you guys authorize that, that basically puts a hold on those. So even though they're not out the door, they're not able to be spent on other things. So that does obviously affect our capital budget, but again, we were kind of fastly applying for the first round of base grants at the beginning of last year. And you could see we had 2 projects and about 400,000 in matches. So I think getting this a little more refined hopefully increases our chances, and we can hopefully have a really good shot at maybe getting a spec building on some of that recently acquired industrial land. So that's my update. Be happy to answer any questions about either grant.
And Harvey County EDC is helping us through this on this base grant.
And Ethan and I have spent quite a little time looking into this because both of us would desire something to be happening in that industrial park. And if we can do it at 50% of our cash outlay versus 100, it's even better. We believe we have the numbers to make this a very successful project, to the point where if we can get one building out there and get it occupied, we may consider looking at a second.
It'd be an easy leg up for a second.
Yeah, we've got to start somewhere,
Yeah.
so this is trying to get a start out there.
On the local match, you mentioned that it's anticipated to come from a combination of ARPA and the capital improvement funds. How do you anticipate that being split?
Primarily, a lot of it will depend on what that final, or if the, you know, we're still kind of figuring out the idea tech and what that's gonna do to ARPA funds, so some of it will probably depend on what that final number is. Mostly, I would associate most of it probably is gonna come from capital improvement. But if we have some, you know, ARPA funds left over that haven't been spoke for, that's a natural place to get those expended out,
Okay.
so.
Any other questions on the base grant applications, council?
You need a consensus on this? Or are you looking for a motion?
No, I just, consensus, I don't think we need the formal resolution like they wanted last time. I think we're good to go with the guarantees that have been put in place,
Good.
so.
I'm good with it. I like it.
Too.
Derek? Sound like a plan?
Okay.
Well, that finishes up the new business portion of our agenda. We do have one executive session on the agenda this evening, and I would entertain the motion for said executive session just as soon as Ethan's done writing it.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Halstead City Council recess into executive session to discuss contract negotiations pursuant to the consultation with an attorney on matters that would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, exception KSA 754319B2, and ask that in addition to the governing body, the following persons join the governing body in executive session: the city manager and city attorney. the open meeting and governing body to reconvene in the city council chambers at 7:50 PM.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to enter into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. We will be moving to the back meeting room, council. We are back from our executive session. Is there any action to be taken as a result of? Hearing nothing from the council, we will move on to the next section of our agenda, and that's the report section. And governing body comments are first. I'll start with you, Brody.
I have nothing tonight.
I've got nothing either, thank you, sir.
George?
No, sir.
Derek? Well, the only thing I'll add is it was nice to get some moisture this weekend. It was nice to see some snow for a little bit, so
We need more.
maybe we'll get a little more, before this coming weekend, and go Chiefs. Other than that, I'll go to Ethan for the, city manager report.
Thank you. Not a whole lot to report on in the last couple of weeks. Large part, the auditors were here last week doing field visits. They have concluded all that, so just want to give a special recognition to Julie and her team in getting the auditors what they needed and out of here in short order. As is probably evident, the tree removal down at 10th and Main has largely been completed. We're working on getting those trees burned off as weather allows and other factors. Also, the water and sewer main work for the Cedar Meadows expansion has begun, so those mains are going in now as we speak. Still working on finalizing basically some final agreements on the seed grants between the entities, our fiber build there with Idea Tech, and then working on some real estate contracts. So other than that, also with the legislative session in and going, we are watching to see what the legislature might throws our way. Big thing so far was some discussion on changing the zoning rules as far as how cities could apply their regulations outside their city limits. So just be looking for those or read when we send you out those weekly league news updates. Sometimes when we see those bills, we're gonna call on you guys to reach out to our local reps too to express yay or nay on stuff that's being proposed. So that's all I have this evening.
Council, any questions of Ethan's report? If not, that concludes our agenda, and I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, council.